On this episode of Building Better Brands, we're going to talk about the dead medium of print and the best print adverts of all time. I'm Tony Hardy, founder and director of Canny Creative. This is Building Better Brands. Remember, like, ring the bell, comment below, subscribe to the channel. We're bringing lots of design stuff to you on a weekly basis these days. And today we're talking about print and the best print ads of all time. First though, what makes a good print advert? What makes a good print advert then? So something that stops people in their tracks, something people are going to remember, and something that generates buzz online. It should be simple, but it needs to be effective. And yeah, the dead world of print advertising, it's not really dead. It's just different. Print is still very much alive and kicking. So let's get into it. Swedish furniture manufacturer Ikea, what they did is they designed an advert that went in the local press, the local papers. It was an advert for 50% off cots and cribs for expectant families. What their new mothers had to do was pee on the paper. It was a doubled up pregnancy test. Yeah, it created a lot of buzz and a lot of shock online. Next up, KFC. The ad by Mother London cleverly rearranged the letters KFC to FCK, as in, fuck, we've run out of chicken. The advert showed an empty bargain bucket. What they did when they ran out of chicken a few years back, they basically capitalized on a negative buzz and turned the fact that the only thing they sell, the chicken, was caught up offshore. I think that was the issue. It was caught up offshore. It was somewhere it shouldn't be. It wasn't in KFC stores. It completely ran out, and they turned that negative into a positive with a clever advertising campaign. Next up, thick brown spread, Marmite. Marmite's always been famous for dividing the nation with kind of love it or hate it campaigns. They do a lot of stuff around that, but when Brexit was happening in the UK, they kind of went with a new advert that was like hard breakfast, soft breakfast, no breakfast. And it was a play on Brexit, a beautiful campaign, well executed, lovely, unlike the spread itself. McDonald's, how could they not be on the list? Loads of campaigns spring to mind, but the first is Iconic Stacks by Leo Burnett. What this was they stripped away the logo for McDonald's, they stripped away the typical McDonald's colours, right-aligned Helvetica text on massive billboards, and it was a case of like bun, lettuce, cheese, burger, sauce, bun, just written out beautifully, coloured like the menu item itself, so that might be the Big Mac, so bun, sauce, cheese, burger, other bun, I don't know what goes in a Big Mac, but yeah, you get the idea. They listed out the ingredients down the right-hand side and created a really iconic advertising campaign. The second campaign by McDonald's, probably my favourite ever campaign, is called Follow the Archers by Cassette. What they did there was they used the McDonald's logo, the icon, yellow on red, as is tradition. And what they did was the logo kind of acted as a directional device. So they had an arch of the M off to the right, and I would say McDonald's, next right. The whole thing, well, sorry, you've just missed us, or off to the left. They really played with the shape and with directional challenges. So yeah, Ronald's branding has always been on point. Next up on the list, highlighter pens. I can't decide how you say the name. Stabilo, Stabilo, Stabilo. Yeah, yellow highlighter pens. You know the brand I mean. Their advert, basically, they took black and white photography from the past, and what they did was these photos they chose were like where a white man was very front and center of the frame, but actually somewhere in the background was somebody equally as important, normally a woman. And what they did was they drew the highlighter down and colored their face in, so it changed the focus of the picture. They highlighted first ladies, scientists, mathematicians that had been lost in great historical photos. It's the first entry on the list for German studio Doyle Dane Bernbach. They got 3 entries on the list. Needless to say, they're the kings of the advertising world. While we're on the Doyle Dane Bernbach train, the next entry is VW and Think Small. In the late 50s, after the war, all the car adverts in America and Britain were all like big muscle, like massive cars, encouraging people into massive engines, big fancy cars. And what DDB did was they took the whole idea, flipped it on its head, and changed the narrative. They started telling the boring story of owning a very small VW. But what that did was skyrocket sales. So yeah, great logic by the German agency. Next up, WWF with the campaign Horrifying, More Horrifying. And this is simply one of the most effective campaigns I've ever seen. Essentially, two posters. One would have a shark fin coming out of the water, and it would say, I don't know if it would say sharks horrifying, but I think it might just say horrifying under the shark. And then the next print advert somewhere maybe later in the magazine would not have the shark fin, and it would say more horrifying. So the whole idea being like, sharks are terrifying or horrifying, but a world without all of these wonderful animals is more horrifying or more terrifying. So they did it with a rattlesnake coming towards you, terrifying. Without the rattlesnake, more terrifying. Really simple, and I really love the idea of someone flicking through a magazine back in the 90s and seeing this shark picture, and then later they see the other picture without the shark, just the open ocean, making the connection. I think it's a really, really clever, principled advertising campaign. And finally, the Share a Coke campaign. How could we not talk about this recent advertising history? Coke announced Share a Coke, and the idea there was you could buy bottles of Coke personalized with your name. Obviously, this drove everybody into a frenzy trying to find Coke with their names on, especially if you had a unique name. Eventually, Coke rolled out a name request generator, and they started printing those labels too. This is kind of an example of a viral advertising loop at its finest, because you had people finding that strange name on a bottle of Coke, snapping it, putting it on Instagram, seeing their friends. The friends would then buy it, put it on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. The cycle continues. But yeah, Share a Coke, perfectly executed by the Coca-Cola company. That's it. This has been Building Better Brands. Remember to check out the other videos on our channel. We've got Rebrand Review, we've got Creating Canny. Like, comment, subscribe below, and we'll see you next time.